But what I really do want to show you is Adobe Xd, which, how many of you have seen Xd before already? Yeah, so that's pretty good. There's a few of you already. So I'm going to use sort of a pre-baked thing in Blue Peter fashion here just to show you this. So this is meant to be super, super fast. So unlike all of the things I mentioned earlier, which people have adapted to do their UI and UX work in, this was built from the ground up expressly for that purpose. It is meant to be lightweight. It is meant to be ultra fast. That's why I can pinch and zoom like that, and the rendering of that is instantaneous. You'll notice there's no lag. Yeah. In some cases, maybe we've got some rasterized content. It might be a little tiny bit of extra lag, but it is overcome very, very quickly. Yeah. From there, much quicker than Illustrator or Photoshop will render it. And you'll notice there's no block rendering there either. It's the whole screen instantly. So very, very fast to work with, minimal UI. What we don't want to create with this particular product is something where you see a whole load of panels, 90% of which you're not going to be using at any one time, right? Because that's the truth in those things. You're using hardly any of all of that extra stuff. It's all there in case you need it, but what's the point in having it there if you're not using it? If you're not using the color guide, turn it off. If you're not using the swatches panel, turn it off. If you're not using Pathfinder, turn it off. All of those things. No point in having them there at all. So I've just got an extended panel out there. That's symbols. I'll come to that in a moment. And here on the right-hand side, I've got the context-sensitive properties panel, something which is being adapted into other products as well. In fact, Dreamweaver's had it since Macromedia days. So this is a fictitious app. Obviously, I'm not going along with the material guidelines here. I thought I'd make it a bit more colourful. This one with some gradients in it as well, because I'm retro and old school and I like gradients. So it's based on a food app, right, called Eats. When you get into Eats, you can decide one of these different things using these tiles. So I want to eat at a restaurant. I want some fast food. I want one of my favorites, surprise me, show me stuff I've ordered recently, and show me stuff based on my location, and I get a viewer profile at the top. In this section here, we're going to have a little map, and then we're going to have at least something for the fast food and possibly the restaurant food, depending on how we're doing. So I'm going to select this artboard to start off with, and I'm just going to drag a copy of that down here. And the idea I want here is I'm going to simulate in this journey the experience of signing in. So when the user sees the splash screen will then be defocused and a login bubble will appear on top of that. So to do that, I'm going to draw a rectangle. And in here, some of the shortcuts are similar to those in Illustrator. Some of them are different. So rectangle in here, for example, is R. And not M as it is in Illustrator, but it's easy enough for you to decode those things. I'm going to turn on some background blur here, and then I'm just going to dial that up. Actually, I think I'll actually go for background blur itself. Okay, so I'm just going to dial up the blur there, and I can tune the brightness as well, and also the overall opacity of that too. And then I'll bring the bubble in like so. The bubble is actually a group here, so I'll just grab hold of that and bring that in and drop that on top like so. There we go, perfect. That will do just there. So the user gets hold of that, then they log in. I'll just name this screen here, log in, like so. And then they make their way out to this screen. Well, this one's pretty much finished. So what I'm going to do is just grab this stuff from the top here and copy it. So I've got hot dog menu there and title bar. Then I'm going to click on this artboard and paste. And you'll see it keeps the relative coordinates of the artboard as it drops the artwork down. And of course, a more efficient use of this would have been for me to turn it into a symbol, but as I'll do that shortly anyway, I'm not going to worry too much for now. So I could just replicate that across all of my artboards very quickly. What's meant to go on this screen here are nearby locations, and so I'm going to simulate that with a map, and in here, in my Finder, I've got this full screen map just here, and what I'm going to do is drag that in from the Finder. You can see that as I move it around, it's highlighting different places that can be dropped, and this here is being dropped onto the artboard, so I've got that. And XD has a very capable drawing engine inside of it. You can paste Illustrator content in. You can actually paste content in from Sketch if you've got legacy stuff from Sketch, because a lot of people moved out to Sketch and are then finding themselves coming back because they've already got Adobe tools, so they're kind of exploring in this and working in this, this tool here. Because it is awesome. And so it understands the clipboard for both of those things. So the reason I showed you Illustrator to start off with, for example, is if you're developing stuff in there because you've got a whole load of other engines and tools that you can use to build stuff, you can just copy it out of there and drop it straight into XD. But I will draw something for you. So what I'm going to do here is draw an ellipse like so, same as you would on a desktop tool, holding down Shift just to create a constrained circle. And then with my selection tool, I'm just going to double click on that, and you'll see it gives me access to the Beziers here. So I said that funny, Beziers, but there we are. I'll double click on the one at the bottom here, and it converts it from being a curved point to a corner point like so. So it makes it very easy for me to draw a location marker. Then I'm going to give that a fill. So for example, I might want to go for kind of a red fill there like so. I'm just trying to balance out for the projection, but that's about as bright as I can get it. It's pretty bright. Just there, and I can save color swatches down here as well, you may well have noticed. So I can draw that just there. I'm going to turn the border off. I don't want a border. And now I'm going to draw another ellipse. So I'll just make my way to here, and just as I would in Illustrator, I'm going to hold down Alt and Shift to draw a constrained shape from the center outwards. And then I'll select both of those things. You'll notice, hopefully, that other options have become available at the top of the Properties Inspector, just here. So now it's said, right, okay, you've got more than one thing active, so it's turned off some other things, but my alignment options are here, and then my Boolean functions are here also. So I'm going to use a subtract Boolean, which knocks out the ellipse shape from the shape underneath it. And you'll notice that that remains illuminated. That's because it is still there. The ellipse is still there. If I needed to change anything about it, I can access that by double-clicking into the shape, and I can drill my way down to that particular ellipse, and I can model that still further without having to go back and redraw it. It's pretty much the same as making a compound shape in Illustrator, which of course you do by holding down the Alt or Option key. Rather than committing to that, you get the same visual effect from it. So I've got that the whole time there, and I might want to add something to it. I could, if I wanted to, add a bit of a shadow on there, which I've just done. And of course, if I was going to use this more than once, it would make sense for me to turn this into a symbol, which I simply do by tapping the plus just there like so. And then, of course, I can just bring as many of those in as I need to add those locations. Could have made that a bit smaller, but not to worry. Yeah, so we'll just pretend there are 2 restaurants in that area. So you get to see there how the drawing engine works.